False reports that the courthouse is being stormed by the white mob reach Greenwood, where the community is gathering to discuss what action they should take.
African American men in Tulsa decided that it was time to take a stand, that lynching a 19-year-old black man for an alleged assault was going too far.
Immediately, a group of armed African Americans, including World War I veterans, rushed to the courthouse and offered to help defend the jail. Assured by the sheriff that Roland would be safe, the men returned to Greenwood. The white mob, however, remains.
That might have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. After seeing this initial group of blacks, whites then started to arm themselves much closer.
10:30 p.m. The white mob swells to 2,000. Once again, word reaches Greenwood that a lynching is imminent. A group of armed blacks return to the courthouse. Again, they are turned away.
But as they were walking back to their cars, a white came up to a black vet and said, "Where are you going with that gun, nigger?" And the black vet said, "I'm going to use it if I have to." And the white man said, "No, you ain't." A tussle started off, a shot was fired, and the race riot was on.
The situation in Tulsa quickly spirals out of control.
After those first shots were fired, at that point, the white rights forgot about this role entirely, and they were out to get all blacks for what they perceived as crimes against whites by blacks.
During the rest of the night, small excursions by whites into the district are withheld, but the residents of Greenwood will not be able to hold them off for long.
Once the sun was up and the mass invasion of Greenwood happened, whites would typically come in, they would be fighting gun battles with blacks who were defending their homes and businesses before being overwhelmed.
When the riot starts, many police officers abandon their duties. They side with the white rioters, deputizing many of them and detaining as many blacks as possible.
Black men were rounded up and taken to detention centers on the notion that that would be for their protection. But what that did was essentially to leave the black community defenseless.
We're taking you down, boy. We're taking you down. Let's go.
Anybody who was white, detained, anything to anybody who was black, they get by with it. And in fact, they were encouraged to do so.
This video is called The Wrath of Cyborg.
Men taking my father to a place where they kept prisoners at Lemon and Elgin, McNulty Park. Other than that, I never saw my father anymore during the race ride. I just remember my mother taking care of us.
The early morning hours of June 1st, 1921, with most members of the community in detention centers, their homes and businesses are looted and burned.
I will always remember 4 men coming in our house with torches, and my mother saw them coming, and she put the 4 of we children under the bed. And from under the bed, we could see them walking to the curtains and setting fire to the curtains to set our house on fire.
We started with hearing shots, and my grandfather was told us all to get up, and we got up and we could see smoke and hear shots, and we couldn't sleep or anything. We were just frightened really to death. The next 2-3 days it was June, and school was going to be out. I was sitting up studying my lesson for an exam for the next day. And someone banged on that door, put that light out, but as soon as daylight came, we looked outside, and all these people were coming down this railroad track. Was anybody trying to get them? Those people were coming along.
Stand
that the city was really out of hand, the decision was made to go ahead and request the National Guard. So a telegram was sent to Governor Robertson, who authorized the Adjutant General to send the National Guard into the city.
9:15 a.m. 17 hours after the mob began to gather outside the courthouse, Oklahoma City units of the National Guard arrived in Tulsa. Martial law is declared at 11:29. The National Guard takes control of the city and puts an end to the violence, burning, and looting. The troops also round up the remaining African Americans and take them to internment centers. The white rioters are disarmed, but for the most part are simply sent home. Greenwood lay in ruin. Confusion lingers in the wake of the riot. Estimates on the death toll are uncertain, and uncounted numbers of blacks leave Tulsa, never to return.
The number of dead in the riot has historically been a subject of some controversy. The best evidence suggests that upwards of 300 people died in the riot.
I talked to the sexton at Oaklawn Cemetery, and he said that truckloads had been brought in and they were buried in the Pauper's Field in the southwest corner of Oaklawn.
Another disputed fact is whether airplanes were used to drop bombs on Greenwood during the riot.
I remember that they said an airplane was dropping kerosene on houses from an airplane. I don't ever remember the airplane. I've had so many people say that I don't see how you couldn't remember years ago. But at 5 years old, I just didn't pay any attention to it.
The evidence is strong that airplanes were used in the riot. Some say that bombs were dropped. Others say that nitroglycerin was dropped to propel the fires that were going.
What is certain in the aftermath of the riot is that Greenwood has been permanently altered.
At that point, you had a city that was changed forever. Nearly 50 square blocks had been burned to the ground. Nearly a tenth of the population was held under armed guard at internment centers.
In less than 24 hours, a marauding white mob has transformed a black promised land into a smoldering wasteland. An estimated 300 dead, more than 6,000 blacks in internment centers, over 1,000 black homes and businesses decimated.
When we rode through Greenwood, I said we will never, 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 ever come back here. So we would never, ever come back. There was not a building standing.
After more than 17 hours of anarchy, the race riot is quelled and the flames of Tulsa are extinguished. To heal.
The riot didn't really end when the martial law was declared and when the state troops came. There were reverberations that went on for many, many months, and in fact years after that.
The physical damage left in the wake of the rampaging white mob is immense, estimated at $5 million.
That $5 million that successfully lost in the big dollars, it would be in the building.
The enormity of the devastation in Greenwood is staggering. This physical damage is matched by the impact of the riot on its residents. Despite not being accused of committing any crimes, most of the African Americans in Tulsa are locked up in internment centers, some held for days.
Ultimately, the economy of Tulsa began to come to a grinding halt because all these black men who were doing these so-called menial jobs were absent. And these jobs were necessary for the economy to move forward.
Faced with economic loss, white employers arranged for the release of the African Americans from the detention centers. But to gain their freedom, African Americans must wear specially issued tags signed by their employers.
Most folks, once they were released from the internment centers, came back, got busy,
and got to work again rebuilding the community.
But rebuilding would not be easy in the face of the awesome destruction.
After the riot, because there was so much devastation in the Greenwood community, including a lot of homes, a lot of the victims of the riot literally lived in tent cities.
The Red Cross helps, spending at least $100,000 in its humanitarian relief efforts.
There is no doubt that the American Red Cross is the true angel of mercy during the Tulsa race riot, and the Red Cross provided food, the Red Cross provided tents and building materials to make platforms for tents. They found ways to provide medicine. They created a hospital in North.
That's not.
books or anything else.
With the dedication of a monument to Black Wall Street.
And Benjamin Brooks, president of the NAACP, came and spoke. Then we marched from here over to the Cultural Center, lit the flame for the memorial to Black Wall Street.
With these initial steps, Tulsa had begun to come to terms with the travesty of the race riot.
We can't change our history, no matter how negative it is. What we can do is take our history and learn from it and grow into the future.
Maybe if we talk about it enough, it'll never be again.
A decades-long effort to suppress the facts of the night that Tulsa burned nearly succeeded. But the survivors of that horrific event would not let this story be lost.
Pop Girl Station. The Flash.
Racist mob is not an easy path, but we must face it.
we need to keep being productive because there's so much injustice. There's so much hatred. And it's something that we can't ever allow to happen again in our country, in the greater sense, in the whole world. The best way that we can fight ignorance is to educate. And so kids need to know this story about human injustice, about doing what is right, about really believing in something to the point where you take action.
Over there across the United States, seems just exciting, like a vision. The last sentence states, with liberty and justice for all. That liberty and justice came out of Christ. In America, between 1607 and 1865, African Americans didn't have their freedom. During this time period, they fought to be free. However, the story is excluded from the American experience. Why? Because most of their stories come from the oral tradition. Until the civil rights era, their story wasn't considered important. African Americans, Native Americans, and Euro Americans worked together here in Kansas between 1854 and 1861 to make Kansas a free state. They established the western edge of the Underground Railroad of the country. The starting along the path to liberty just north of the town of Wabansie, there's a marker in honor of the first brave men and women who traveled to the area. The sign reads, an Asper per Espira, which means a rough road